I'm Anita. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a bracelet and earring set with contents from the November 2024 dollar bead box. And can you believe it? I'm still making stuff from that bead stash. It's just amazing how many beads you get in these monthly subscriptions, and I still have lots of beads left over. I'll have links in the description box below that will give you details on where you can get all of these items used in today's tutorial. So if you click more below this video, you'll get all the details, including a link to my website. Alright, let's get started. I'll be reviewing the materials you need for today. First of all, you're going to need I'm using 7-strand Beadalon in a gold color. I'm probably going to use about 9 to 10 inches of that. I also have a bead clamp I'll be using. For tools, you're going to be needing some crimp tools. I've got a couple of different pair here. This I like to use because it has a skinny nose to it, and I like to use this one for crimping down on any sharp edges. I also have some nylon pliers to help straighten any crooked wire. A couple of different flat nose pliers. This one's got a wider grip to it, and then this is the skinnier set. And then I have a pair of wire cutters and some round nose pliers. So those are the tools you're going to need. As far as the materials go, for my bracelet, I'm going to be using these reddish color, they're called Czech glass faceted rounds. They are about 7 millimeter in diameter, and it's called chestnut opal. So all of these beads, the majority of these beads came from the dollar bead box from November of 2024. I also am using these. These came from the metallic mix from both October and November. It's kind of a matte red copper and a matte bronze. I'm not sure what the bead is called, but it looks like a, what they call those, crescent bead, but it's not quite a crescent bead because it's kind of pretty thick bead and it's only got a single hole. So I'm calling it moon-shaped beads. And then I also am using mustard travertine is the color, and that was from the November box. These are Czech fire polishes, and these measure 8 millimeters in diameter. I also have these fire polish beads, Czech fire polish beads. These are 6 millimeter. The color is alabaster travertine. And then I'm also using the little flower beads that came in the November box. Those are really cute, and I'm about to lose that one. So very cute flower bead. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm using these. They're called Czech glass flower bell flowers, and the color is honey brown. These are 8 millimeter in size. I've also got from my bead stash some 4 millimeter gold-plated spacer beads, some daisy spacers. Those are about 4 millimeter in size. And then for my findings, I've got some head pins, and then I've got some eye pins. I've got some 4 millimeter jump rings I'm going to be using, and I also have my earring hooks, a couple of eye pins here, more spacers, and more of the same beads. I've also am using these little pyramid beads from the collection. Not sure what they're called, but it's got a single hole, and they're kind of shaped like a pyramid, little pyramids. And then, of course, I've got the same travertine and these other similar beads as well. And then I'm going to have a dangle on my bracelet. So I've got that for my accent, a little bit of extender chain, a couple of wire guardians, crimp tubes, number 2, and I've got crimp covers and my lobster clasp. So let me clear my area and we'll get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I cut a piece of my 7-strand Beadalon wire. I cut about 12 inches. I wanted to have enough extra for crimping on the ends. And I'm going to take my clamp here and I'm going to place that just a couple of inches in at the end to keep my beads from falling off. So we're going to start stringing the bracelet. Now, first of all, before I start to do that, I'm going to show you how I did these little flower beads. These came simply like this, just plain little floral beads like this. So what I did was I decided I was going to take some head pins, and these aren't the ball head pins, these are just the plain old flat top head pins. And what I did was I did wire wraps on these. As you can see, I've already done the rest of these. And they look really cute because I want these to dangle from my bracelet. So I've done quite a few of these already. So I'm going to show you how this process is done. And then I'm going to use my O-ring or jump ring to hang those from the bracelet so that way they dangle a little bit lower below where the bracelet's going to hang. So let me show you how we do the floral thingy here. What I'm going to do, first of all, when you have head pins like this that are kind of bent, there's nothing wrong with them. You can just use your tools to straighten them out pretty easy. And that's where a pair of nylon pliers comes in real handy. I use this all the time. So what I'm going to do to make it easier, I'm going to hold one end of my head pin like that, and just grip that nice and tight, and then take your nylon pliers and just run that across. So I'm going to turn this around so that I can get it to straighten out, and I'm going to run that across a few times like that. And isn't that amazing? I have a straight, pretty close to straight head pin. It looks a lot better than what it did. So, and then any other adjustment we can do after we do the completion of the wire wrap. So that's how you straighten out your wire. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up my 11-0 seed bead, and I'm going to put my head pin through the flower like this. So that's going to give you a cute little decoration here at the tip. So now I'm going to take a pair of my skinny pliers, and I want to be positioned right above that bead like that. I'm going to push this 90 degrees. Now I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and I'm going to position that right about here. I don't want a really large loop. So I'm going to do a wrap by grabbing my other skinny pliers, and I'm going to pull that towards me and then down towards the table. Now I'm going to rotate my pliers towards the table, grab the wire, and pull it straight back like that. So now I have my loop done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my skinny pliers and hold on to that real close to where the wires cross. So now I'm going to take my other skinny pliers and I'm going to start to wrap. And you want to try to wrap these as close together as you can. So I'm going to go around until I can't wrap anymore. So from here, I'm going to straighten this out a little bit because it kind of got crooked on me. And I'm going to cut off this extra piece of wire here. So cut that as close as you can. So from here, I'm going to now grip that loop with some skinny pliers. And I'm going to tuck in that sharp end. So you want to make sure you don't have any sharp edges sticking out. So to do that, I'm going to use these crimping pliers. This is ideal for smoothing out any rough spots. So just be careful not to crack your bead. Position it over the first opening and just gently squeeze around. So there we have our beautiful little wire wrapped flower. Isn't that cute? So these are all done. So we're going to set these aside for when we do the assembly of the bracelet. So from here, I'm going to start stringing on my beads. And what I've done is I'm going to put these in the order that I'm going to string, and that will make it easier to follow. So let me get these all lined up and I'll be right back. All right, so here's what we're going to start with. This is the order in which I'm going to do my design, and it took me a few hours today to figure out how I wanted to put this together. So now you'll get to watch the finished product. So first of all, I've got my clamp on, and I'm going to start by stringing on my daisy spacer. And I need to clip my edge of my wire because it's a little frayed. So if you have trouble threading your beads on with this Beadalon, you might want to have a clean cut edge here to start. So let's try that again. So I'm going to pick up my spacer, my first colored bead here, another spacer. These are so small, you have to pick them up to put them on. Now I'm going to put on one of my crescent shaped beads, and I'm going to go in from this direction in towards have the cup facing inwards. Now I'm going to pick up another daisy spacer. Try that again. Pick up one of my travertine beads, another daisy spacer. Now I'm going to pick up my other crescent bead with the cup facing this direction. Now I'm going to pick up my 4mm spacer bead, and I'm going to put my O-ring on my little bellflower here because I want that to get some distance and dangle. So I'm going to take my flat nose pliers before I put this on, and I'm going to open my 4mm jump ring right here. So just open that by twisting that towards you. Don't need to open it very far. And I'm going to clip my little wired wrap flower on here. Now we're going to close the loop. And make sure you don't have any gaps. That's very important, or you'll be losing your little flowers. So that's what we have. So now I'm going to string this on by going through the jump ring I just added. Now I'm going to pick up another spacer bead, another travertine bead, a daisy spacer, one of my reddish brown beads, my faceted rounds, a daisy spacer, another travertine bead, and now I'm going to pick up 4mm spacer, and I'm going to put this O-ring on my little bellflower. So let me take my flat nose pliers and open my jump ring just enough to slip that on. I'm going to twist that towards me. Put that on my little flower. And then close. Make sure it's nice and snug. Like that. Now we're going to string this on by going through the jump ring, another 4mm spacer, now I'm going to pick up another crescent bead, so I'm going in this direction with the cup facing to the left. I'm going to pick up daisy spacer, travertine bead, a daisy spacer. Now I'm going to pick up the other side of my moon-shaped bead, going with the cup facing to the right, like that. So that's what I have so far. So I'm going to continue stringing in this manner until I reach the length of my bracelet. And then I'll show you how to do the clasp portion. All right, I'm going to check my length here and see where I'm at. I'm going to make this probably either 6 or 6.5 inch because my clasp is going to add probably about an inch to it. So I'm at 5 inches, a little over 5 inches right now. So I'm going to add a few more beads and we'll keep going. All right, so let's see where we're at now. Take another measurement. That's about 6.5 inches. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these last 2 beads off. I'd like it to kind of end with the way I started with this bead here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these last 2 beads. And I'm going to leave that daisy spacer on. So that it matches my other side. I'm going to go ahead and put a daisy spacer on the other side of this, so it looks a little close to being even. And if you need it longer, you can just add some more beads. All right, so there is my bracelet. Isn't that cute? It's a very whimsical style, very cute. So we're going to now put on the wire guardians next. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my clamps off, and I'm going to put a crimp tube on. This is a number 2 crimp tube, Beadalon, and I prefer the Beadalon brand because that's pretty good quality. Now I'm going to take my wire guardian, bring my wire through one side. Now I'm going to bring it down the other side. And now I'm going to bring my wire through the crimp tube. And I also want to go through a couple of the beads if I can, like that. So my wire is coming out through this crescent bead just to give a little bit of extra strength, and I'm going to pull that so that my wire guardian is flush with the thread in the channel, like that. So now I'm going to take my crimping pliers, and I like to use these because they have a very nice sharp divot here, and that's where I'm going to do my crimping. So I want to make sure that my wire is not crossed. So I'm going to place this where the divot is, and I'm going to squeeze. Now I'm going to take my crimp tool and I'm going to come into the first or second divot so that I can fold my crimp and squeeze. I'm going to pull on that to make sure that it's nice and snug. Let's get my wire wire through here. It feels pretty tight. So I'm going to clip off this wire here at this end with my wire cutters. And now I'm going to crimp the other side. So I want to bring my beads flush all the way down. And you don't want to push this too tight because you don't want your beads to buckle. You want it to have a nice natural drape. So now I'm going to do the same thing and add my crimp on this side, and then we'll go on to the next step. I'm going to do that off camera. So you're pretty much going to do the same thing as we did here for this side, and then we'll go on to the clasp. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I'm putting this on so that way you can see how much leeway you want to give this so that it's not too terribly tight. So I put on my crimp tube first and then my wire guardian. Now I fed my wire back through the other side of the wire guardian, and I'm going to now bring it through my crimp tube and a couple of beads on this side. So I'm just going to go through this first 8mm bead like that. I'm going to pull my wire guard up. Now I'm going to pull this with my finger on my left hand, holding on to my wire guardian so that I can draw this up. Now I'm going to use my skinny pliers to pull that a little bit more. Not too tight, you just want to make sure that it looks good, that it's not super distorted or anything, because you want it to drape nice and natural. Alright, so that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to crimp just like we did, bringing my crimping tool, putting that right in the wedge, making sure that my wires aren't crossed, and I'm going to squeeze. And now I'm going to fold that crimp, squeeze, pull that nice and tight, so that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to cut off this extra wire here. There's our bracelet. So now I'm going to add an O-ring with my lobster clasp on one end. So I'm going to take my flat nose pliers, and this is a 6mm jump ring. I'm going to open this up by twisting this towards me. Put this on one end of my bracelet, and then I'm going to put my lobster clasp on. And I'm going to close. So now we're going to put an extender chain with an O-ring on this other end. Now before I do that, I'm going to do a dangle for my extender chain. So I'm taking one of these faceted round beads, putting that on a ball head pin, and I'm going to do a wire wrap on this. So I'm going to fold this 90 degrees. Now I'm going to place my round nose pliers like that. Grab another pair of pliers and pull. Pull this down towards the table. Rotate my pliers, pull this towards the back. Now I'm going to hold this with my skinny pliers, and I'm going to wrap. Just wrap it a few times. That looks pretty good. So from here I'm going to clip off that extra wire using my wire cutters. And I'm going to hold the loop with my skinny pliers and then take my other crimping tool and just squeeze to make sure there's no rough edges here. And there's our little dangle for our extender chain. So what I'm going to do now is put this on my extender chain, and I need to get one more jump ring for that. So let me grab that and I'll be right back. All right, so here's my other O-ring, jump ring. Going to open this up, put this on my extender chain, and then put my dangle on here. And I'm going to close this. There we go. Got that nice and secure. Now we're going to add our extender chain by opening another jump ring. Put that on your wire guardian, then put the other end of your extender chain and close. So now I'm going to put an extra step here so that it has a finished look. I'm going to put a little crimp cover over this crimp tube. It'll just look a little more finished and more professional looking. So what I'm going to do is take my crimping pliers, put those right in the second divot. It's a little tricky getting this position, but just take your time. So I'm going to hold that in one hand. I'm going to place that over my crimp tube. And I'm going to gently close this, making sure your crimp tube is centered. So I'm just going to squeeze this a little. And I'm going to come around and squeeze from the other direction, and you want to just kind of get this shaped into a little ball. There, that looks pretty good. So there's one crimp cover. Doesn't that look much nicer? So I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Let's get that centered. Place that on your crimp tube. Nice and centered. And squeeze. And you go around and shape it, taking your time. And there you have your completed bracelet. So let's check the measurement on this to see what we ended up with. So from the jump ring to the end of the lobster clasp, it's right at 7 inches. So this gives me opportunity to extend it. If I needed it for a larger wrist, I can go up to 8 to 8.5 inches. So ideally, the smallest wrist this will fit is a 7-inch. So that came out spot on. Isn't that cute? So now we're going to make a pair of earrings that will kind of complement this color palette for the bracelet. So let me get those items ready and we'll go on to our earrings next. All right, so let's go on to the earrings. So the first thing I'm going to do, as you can see, I have a very crooked eye pin here. So I'm going to take my flat nose pliers, hold one end of this, and I'm going to straighten this out. And that works like a charm. All right, so now that I've got that straightened a lot better than what it looked, we're going to go on and place our little flower. And what I did was I did a wire wrap, just like we did for the bracelet. So you could rewind the video if you need to see how to do that. So we're going to put a flower dangle at the bottom. So I'm going to open up my eye pin, first of all, to get that on. Bring that towards you. Put your little floral dangle on there. Then you're going to close. Make sure there's no gaps. Very simple pair of earrings. So all we're going to do now is string on in this order our faceted round, our travertine, and this little pyramid with some spacers in between. So I'm going to put on my rounded faceted bead here first. Now I'm going to put a daisy spacer. If you don't have daisy spacers, you can certainly use 8mm or 11mm beads as spacers just as well. Just enough to give it a contrast. So now we're going to put our travertine bead on, another daisy spacer, our faceted round, now I'm going to pick up, I believe this is a 2mm spacer in galvanized gold. Also looks like about the size of an 11-0, so you could do an 11-0 as well. Now we're going to put our pyramid bead on, and I'm going in like this, that the point is at the top. And let's see if we can get this to go in. Might have to grab another one because I think that hole is blocked. So that's the other thing I wanted to mention. Check your holes on your beads, whether you're using multi-hole or single hole. And see if I can get that. Nope, that's not going to go through. All right, so let me grab another one. Apparently I had a defective one. Throw that one in the trash. See if this one's good. There we go. Okay, so from here I'm going to do a simple loop. So I'm going to grab this at the top, just a little above my bead, and I'm going to bend this 90 degrees. Now I'm going to clip my wire just so that I have enough to make a loop. So a little over 1/4 of an inch, about like that, will work just fine. Now I'll take my round nose pliers, place this at the end, and you want that wire flush with your tool. You don't want to have that wire sticking out. So we're going to start to rotate this towards you and just close it so that the wire meets the end so that you don't have any gaps. So now we're going to take our flat nose and open this loop up by twisting the wire towards you. Now you're going to put your earring hook on. You need to open that a little bit more. And now we can close this. So there are our beautiful earrings. Just using some of the contents from the November dollar bead box. And then we have this gorgeous bracelet that complements these colors. And you have a nice little bracelet and earring set here. Isn't that pretty? Very earthy colors, and you can wear this with just about anything in your wardrobe. Very nice. So I'm pleased with how this turned out today. This concludes today's tutorial. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and thank you for joining me today. I hope that you give us a thumbs up to this video. This really will help my analytics if you do that. There's going to be a link in the description box below with all of the materials used in today's video. I also have a website where I sell my own jewelry, so check it out. Sometimes I run periodic sales throughout the year, so you don't want to miss out on that. If you're not a subscriber, I hope that you do subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you're notified when I upload new videos, and give it a thumbs up while you're at it. Also, I want to say thank you to all of you who have subscribed and keep coming back to watch my videos and leaving comments. I really do appreciate it. So I hope you have a wonderful week. Happy beading, and I'll see you next time.